Now, our closing presenter, and I think that he has a wealth of information going along with what Mr. Snyder has led us to and has incited us and has engaged us. He's held positions with the City of Detroit as a business advocate and project manager and business development specialist at the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, where he played an integral role in helping businesses and nonprofits get past that red tape to work on development projects, expansions, refurbishments, shop openings, as well as events. Much of what Ellison did involved just expediting processes and making sure small businesses were getting ahead of those processes by doing what he calls pre-development assistance. The work of getting permits, licenses, and answers starts with preparation on the part of the business. He holds a master's degree in community development from the University of Detroit Mercy and a bachelor's of science in physiology from Michigan State University. Go Green. We are very pleased to have him to join us to be part of, again, connecting small business owners with business opportunities, which has been the theme of our discussions this morning, will be the theme every day throughout these 4 days. So without further ado, let's now welcome Brian Ellison to close us out of this power-packed morning of information. I'm really hoping that each of you has latched on to one nugget of information that you were looking for, and hopefully we've been able to address that. Just closing, once Mr. Ellison is done, I'll go over the schedule for the rest of the week. Brian?
Should do me a huge favor and set up this PowerPoint. How are you guys doing this morning? Doing well. It's tough to go behind Don, to be honest with you. But he said something that I thought was pretty poignant. Apparently has driven this latter part of my career, and that's find something that you want to do, or that you are willing to do, or that you are good at that other people don't want to do. Well, you know how everybody says, I don't like going to the city, I don't want to deal with the red tape, I don't want to go downtown. This goes on and on. Those are like the nicest things you'll hear. I'm kind of that guy, or I've become that guy, essentially. As she said, I came into the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation as a business development specialist, so I was working with small businesses on attraction and retention side, bringing people into the city, keeping people in the city. Moved over to project management, built large projects, took care of big buildings. So if you guys are familiar with Capitol Park and the repositioning of Capitol Park, that was one of my first major projects. I did the rebuild of the park area, so all that concrete work you see, benches, and a whole ton of messed up infrastructure, we fixed it. Building stabilization for packaging when we were having a problem around, disposition of buildings, or the city having to take back buildings and sell them in strategic areas. I did that. I then left and became the business advocate for the city of Detroit, which was a position that was funded by the Living Cities Foundation there in New York and DC. And my charge then was to work with businesses of all sizes in basically getting through the red tape. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk to you about today, my experiences and how that can translate to you. When they gave me when they came to me with the request to speak, I thought that it was interesting. They called it How to Leverage City Departments for Business Growth. And I thought that was a very interesting topic, because it's not exactly how I would have phrased it or even thought of it, but there is a way to do it, and I'm glad that I sat down with it and wrestled with it in this way. Basically, there's a couple of things that happen when you go to the city, or when you have a business that you're bringing into the city, that involve the city of Detroit. I generally dealt with people who already knew what they needed to do, so they weren't necessarily leveraging the city, but they needed to be able to negotiate the city as it stood. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about that, but then going forward, there is a way to leverage the city. There are systems in place to actually propel small businesses that some people are aware of and many are not. And then the melding of being able to negotiate downtown and being able to use it to your advantage, I think, is where you find that sweet spot for your business. So I'm going to start with somebody that's looking to do a business expansion. And this is actually going to work for people that are also looking to start a business. There's a couple of basic business side issues where you're going to want to deal with downtown. One is licensing. This will not apply to everybody. What you'll need to do, Buildings and Safety handles this. They have a pretty good list. You can find it on the website. Certain businesses are licensed. Certain businesses need not be licensed within the city of Detroit. Starting point is finding out where you stand. If you find that and that's an easy thing to do. You go to the City of Detroit website, Buildings and Safety Department, Business Licensing, it's right there. For those of you that need to be licensed, I'll talk to you about that. And then for people that don't need to be licensed, we can kind of skip that and focus on the things that we need to do. The other side of business expansion, which I'm going to discuss with you today, is certification. This is not handled through Buildings and Safety. This is an element that's handled by the City of Detroit's Human Rights Division. And this is where you see folks that have certifications attached to their businesses that perhaps provide them with an opportunity to gain greater exposure, to gain certain percentage points on contract applications or RFPs. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Starting with business licensing. Business licensing, and again, this pertains to you in the City of Detroit, is generated or controlled by Buildings and Safety Licensing Department. These are the hang-ups. It's very easy to say, you know what, I'm starting business X, I see that I need a license. The assumption is I go to the business licensing office and I buy it. You do buy it. But what many people don't know is that there's a process and a series of checks that will jam you up. And these are things that you're going to want to take care of on the front. The four that are most important, and I'm actually going to take these in reverse order, and I'll explain to you why. The easiest thing is the certificate of occupancy and the certificate of compliance. That is the piece that is generated by Buildings and Safety that says wherever it is that you're operating, if you have a physical space, is legal. Really a separate process which we'll discuss on physical expansion, but that's the first piece. Then they want to talk to you about, and they're going to check your record on your personal property tax, real property tax, and income tax. Income tax is pretty easy. A lot of people are familiar with that. It's income tax. If you've had a business that's been operating, are you paying your City of Detroit taxes? They check it. It's easy. Personal property taxes I found to be the kind of nebulous missing piece where people will come to me as the business advocate and say, Brian, I have my certificate of occupancy, I have my income tax clearance, and they're telling me I can't open my business. Why? You need to do a personal property tax clearance check and a real property tax clearance check. If you do not own your building, you are not responsible for the real property taxes. Now, you may be monetarily responsible if it's built into your lease, but the building owner is responsible to the city to making sure that the real property tax has been paid. The personal property tax applies to your business. Let's say, for instance, you own a print shop. All those printers, all that equipment that you have is what's called personal property. It's taxed, they check it. The reason I'm bringing these things up is not because they're so hard to do or because you need to find someone. This is a matter of time. You could be looking at 6 weeks to get your personal property tax clearance checked. So, when you go to open your doors and you're thinking, okay, I have my printer equipment, I have my build out done, I just need to run downtown, show them this paperwork, I'm going to be open. I'm having a grand opening in a week. You're having a grand opening in 6 weeks potentially. And it's that time that jams people up for a couple of reasons. One, you don't want to expose yourself and say we're going to be open and then you can't provide a service that you're saying you can provide. The other side of that is money. I don't want to build my finances based on a pro forma that starts in 1 week where I can generate revenue, when in real life I have this outlay and I can't start for 6 weeks. That starts to hurt your business. So these are things that we check on the front and ways that you can build them into your kind of stream of time so that you don't lose any efficiencies. You know, it's things that can happen concurrently with other projects. On the other side, and this is where I say that we can leverage the city, there's an area of the Human Rights Department that deals with certifications. And the certifications are pretty broad in nature. In the city of Detroit, there is a Detroit headquartered business certification, Detroit-based business certification, Detroit small business certification. There's a WBE, which is a women-owned business enterprise, and there's an MBE, which is a minority-owned business enterprise certification. All of these certifications carry obviously a different set of parameters for certification. Women and minority-owned businesses have to be greater than 51% women or minority-owned. Detroit-based businesses and headquartered businesses have their own standards for classification. In Detroit small-based business, you can't be essentially an industry-dominant business that's headquartered in the city of Detroit. Once you have these certifications, and many folks just qualify for numerous certs, you see a lot of people who generally are W or MBE, and then on top of that have the other 3 certifications, and it's good. Because all those things carry a classification that will then be used to connect you to projects, or can be used in screening processes for requests for proposal responses and things of that nature. Then you'll see at the top of that sheet, there's what's called the Certified Business Register. Once you have your certifications, you can go to the Human Rights Department and they publish annually a Certified Business Register. They use it for B2B, they use it for government-to-business contracts, and basically what it allows folks to do is you've been categorized by your business type, and then within your business typology, which certifications you carry. Because there may be somebody who has a large contract that in order to meet certain executive orders needs a minority contractor, needs a Detroit-based business. They want to work with businesses of that type for whatever their reason. And it's a very easy way to find you. Now you're leveraging something that the city publishes and is getting the word out as your advertising. That's one way to leverage the city.